My mom always said my entire life ran on luck. When I ranked first in my class, she said, "You just guess really well." When I won a gold medal, she said the judges must have been blind. When I got into West Ridge University, she told everyone, "This kid has no real ability, just good luck." So on my first day of college, she tossed me a book of scratch cards. "Since your luck's so good anyway, might as well let it handle your living expenses too. You get one book per semester. However much you scratch off is all you get. And just so you can't come crying to me about being broke, I'm blocking you now. I'll add you back next semester." With that, she ignored every one of my desperate pleas and blocked me on every single platform. I wanted to cry, but could not even manage tears. All I could do was scratch 2 cards every day. On good days, I would win $20 to $50. Most days, I won absolutely nothing. I survived by sneaking expired cookies out of my roommate's trash. By the last week of the semester, I had developed severe anemia. As I used every ounce of strength to scratch the final card, I laughed. Mom was right. My luck really was incredible. I was so hungry. I saw stars. Everything had double vision. The book of $20 scratch cards Mom gave me felt like a countdown to my death. Only one card remained, $30 I had won before this. Even though I had been incredibly frugal, eating nothing but plain bread and canned soup for every meal had lasted 2 weeks at most. My stomach felt like an invisible hand was squeezing it tight, cramping with pain. So I clung to one last shred of hope and called Mom. Reality dumped cold water over my head. I was still blocked. She had not added me back. Left with no choice, I borrowed a strange anger's phone and dialed her number again. "Mom," before I could get another word out, a sharp, cutting voice came through the line. "If I remember right, you've still got one scratch card left, don't you? Don't come crying poor to me. I'm not falling for that. If you're so capable, do what you did when you got into college and won all those scholarships. Use your luck." The call cut off abruptly. When I tried again, her phone was off. The single remaining scratch card in my hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy. I did not dare scratch it. I was terrified it would be another loss. When the semester started, my weight had been normal. Now I was severely malnourished. At 5'5", I weighed only 73 pounds. Blue veins showed through my skin. There was not a trace of color in my face. When I got back to the dorm, no one was there. I walked toward the trash can, my steps unsteady. Out of habit, I checked to see if my roommates had thrown away any leftover or expired food I could salvage. I had spent most of the semester surviving this way. Just as I started digging through the trash, someone pushed the door open. "Ugh, Elena, why are you going through the garbage again? That's disgusting." My roommate Danielle Lynch's voice made my face burn with shame. I jerked my hand back from the trash, like it had burned me. She glanced at the scratch card on my desk and immediately understood. Undisguised contempt filled her eyes. "I really can't believe you. How can you be this addicted to gambling? You'd rather buy these things and dig through trash than eat actual food? Even if you really love scratch cards that much, you could at least get a part-time job so you can afford to eat, right? Whatever. It's my bad luck rooming with someone like you." With that, Danielle looked at the cake in her hand. With one last bite remaining, tossed it into the trash and walked out of the room. I was dizzy with hunger. My head buzzed. I had no energy to think about whether she was trying to help me or humiliate me. I lunged at the trash can like a starving wolf and grabbed the cake. I devoured it. As I ate, scalding tears fell in heavy drops, mixing with the cake crumbs. Salt and bitterness filled my mouth. I could not blame her for thinking that way. She did not know that before the semester started, Mom had printed my photo on flyers and distributed them to every shop around campus. With one message, "Do not hire me for part-time work." She had cut off every avenue of escape. Doesn't she have good luck? Then let her eat on luck. When Mom said those words, did her face carry the same mockery as Danielle's? I had explained countless times I did not rely on luck. Free award I had won. I had fought for bit by bit, but she did not believe me. She was convinced everything I had came from luck. One flippant word that erased all my effort. The last bite of cake went down. The dizziness eased slightly. I turned my gaze to the final scratch card. Once more, I made up my mind. My hand trembling, I began to scratch. Coating peeled away bit by bit. My heart sank with it. The final row revealed the prize amount, $20. My heart died completely. That meant until next semester. When Mom gave me a new book of scratch cards, I only had $20. Clutching the winning ticket, I walked out of the dorm, planning to go to the redemption center outside the campus gates to cash it in. Just as I left the dorm building, my academic advisor's stern voice called from behind me.
"Elena Marshall."
I turned around when the advisor, Adam Palmer saw the scratch card clutched in my hand. The disappointment on his face deepened. Someone told me, and I didn't believe it. You got in here with top 10 scores from your region. How could you get addicted to these schemes and shortcuts? Look at your grades now. You're practically failing every single class. You've let me down so much. Consider this conversation a warning. If you keep this up, I'll have no choice but to follow school policy and recommend your expulsion. I stood there while Mr. Palmer scolded me for several minutes. Under the scorching sun, the energy from that bite of cake earlier had nearly run out. I started to sway.
Lena.
Mr. Palmer's expression instantly shifted to alarm. Are you okay? After seeing my skeletal hand,
He sighed.
let me take you to the cafeteria to eat. Stop spending all your meal money on scratch cards. From now on, there's no such thing as free money falling from the sky. I did not refuse, Mr. Palmer. After all, right now, whoever gave me a bite to eat was my savior. My lifeline, dignity, pride in the face of survival. They were worthless because I had no money. I had not bought a single meal from the cafeteria windows all semester. I had only bought plain rolls and paired them with free water. Too weak to focus in class, unable to concentrate, to me, the words on the blackboard looked like swimming tadpoles. My grades had plummeted. My pride had long since shattered. After wolfing down a full meal, my spirits lifted considerably. My steps were no longer unsteady. Even my mind felt clearer. After thanking Mr. Palmer, I turned to leave. He frowned. Where are you going? I held up the crumpled winning ticket to cash it in. Otherwise, no food. Elena Marshall, Mr. Palmer snapped in frustration. Did you forget everything I just said that quickly? Or are you determined to defy me so you can get expelled? I shouldn't have bought you that meal. You need to go hungry until you understand how serious this is. Give me the ticket.
Cut your losses now.
He reached his hand toward me. His tone carried an authority that brooked no argument. I quickly hid the scratch card behind my back and pleaded. Sir, I really can't give this to you. I have my reasons. Mr. Palmer slammed his hand on the table. You're beyond help. I'm telling you right now, if you don't hand it over, I'm going back to file an official complaint and put this on your record. I lowered my head. My nails dug into my palms. After an internal struggle, I bowed to him. I'm sorry, I really can't. Without waiting to hear what else he might shout at me, I bolted toward the redemption center. The woman at the redemption counter took the scratch card from my hand. She rolled her eyes. She muttered under her breath. Addicted? Are we? What a waste of your parents' hard-earned money. Itness filled my heart. If I told her this scratch card was the living allowance my own mother gave me, that it was my only source of survival, she would probably find it even more absurd and less believable. Cash check, or I can transfer it to your account, the woman asked impatiently. I pulled out my old phone with its cracked screen, about to give her my account details.
A thought struck me suddenly.
I did not want to cash it in anymore. I'm not cashing it in, I heard myself say. I want to exchange it for a new one. The woman at the redemption counter rolled her eyes. Without any attempt to hide it, she tore off a $20 scratch card and tossed it in front of me. We're beyond saving. How did West Ridge University even admit a student like you? I had heard words like that too many times already. From my roommate, from strangers, and now from her. They no longer stung. I took the scratch card, thanked her, and left without scratching it on the spot. I had barely walked 2 steps when my phone rang. When I saw Mom on the screen, I froze for a moment. That contact felt like it belonged to another lifetime. Distant and unfamiliar. Hello? I answered just before the call would have gone to voicemail. Mom's sharp voice came through immediately. I thought you'd have more backbone than to answer my call. The scratch cards I gave you at the start of the semester should be all used up by now, right? How much did you win on the last one? I told her the truth, $20. The mockery and her tone deepened. Well, your luck isn't bad. Then you didn't starve to death. I could not take it anymore, Mom. Do you know how I've been surviving this semester? On handouts from my roommate, and digging through trash for leftover food. And today, if my advisor hadn't been kind enough to buy me a meal, I probably would have collapsed and ended up in the hospital. I thought hearing about what I had been through might change her mind. Instead, she let out a scornful laugh. So, what? You're trying to brag to me about your good luck? How you ran into a nice roommate and a nice advisor?
Elena Marshall.
I want you to understand that you shouldn't rely on that kind of wishful thinking. If you could get into West Ridge on luck, then getting enough to eat on luck shouldn't be that hard either.
Should it?
Tears spilled from my eyes. I screamed into the phone. I got into West Ridge and won those competitions through hard work. I never once said I got into college because of luck. My outburst only made Mom more impatient. Stop putting on an act. What hard work? I gave birth to you, don't you think? I know what you're capable of. When I was pregnant with you, I deliberately fell down the stairs a few times. And still couldn't get rid of you. If that's not good luck, what is? When I heard those words, my blood felt like it froze instantly. This was the first time she had ever said something so blunt and cruel. To me directly. I had heard relatives gossip about it before. After Mom got pregnant, a rural medical worker told her I was a girl. She did not want to keep me. Abortion technology back then was not as advanced as it was now. She did not have the courage to go through with it, so she gave birth to me. What she had not expected was a difficult labor that resulted in a hysterectomy. She could never have children again. My father divorced her because she could no longer give him more children. All the pieces suddenly connected. Anger and grief erupted all at once. If I'd known I'd have to survive on scratch cards, do you think I would have chosen to be born? Oh, so now you're complaining? Mom snorted coldly on the other end of a line.
Fine. Then.
From now on, I'll just switch to $10 cards instead. You've got good luck anyway, so I might as well save myself some money. With that, she hung up with a sharp click. I knew she had probably blocked me again. I returned to the dorm, in a daze, and stared blankly for a long time at the scratch card I had just exchanged. Finally, I gathered the courage to start scratching. First row, nothing. Second row, nothing either. By the third row, still nothing. By the time I reached the last row, I closed my eyes in resignation and scratched randomly. After a long moment, I opened my trembling eyes. I had won the prize. Column read, $5 million. I counted the zeros again. My vision, already blurred from severe malnutrition, swam with dark spots. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressed the heels of my hands against my eyelids until colors exploded in the darkness, and opened them again. $5 million. The cheap, silver-gray dust from the scratch card clung to my fingernails. It looked like ordinary dirt, but it was the ash of my past life. My heart didn't soar. It didn't race with the euphoria you see in movies when someone hits the jackpot. Instead, a cold, heavy terror dropped into my stomach. I was 73 pounds. I was severely anemic. I had no friends, a roommate who despised me, an advisor ready to expel me, and a mother who had actively tried to miscarry me. If anyone found out I held $5 million in my trembling, skeletal hand, they wouldn't congratulate me. They would tear me apart like vultures. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Survival instinct, honed by months of digging through Danielle's trash for expired food, took over with icy clarity. I folded the ticket carefully, wrapping it in a tissue, then placed it inside the lining of my worn-out sneaker, right beneath the sole. I tied the shoelace in a double knot. Every step I took from that moment on would be grounded in my own salvation. That night, I didn't sleep. Danielle came back around midnight, smelling of cheap vodka and expensive perfume. She glanced at my bed, saw me curled up beneath the thin blanket, and scoffed. "Still alive, huh?" she muttered, kicking her heels off. "Thought you might have finally gambled yourself into a coma." I didn't respond. I just lay there, listening to her breathing even out, feeling the hard lump of the shoe tucked safely under my pillow. Let her talk, I thought. The words that used to burn like acid now felt entirely hollow. They were echoing in an empty room. I had already moved out of my mind. The next morning, I skipped class. I couldn't afford to care about Mr. Palmer's threats of expulsion right now. I had exactly one mission. I took the campus bus to the nearest public library, used a computer, and researched how to claim a lottery prize anonymously in my state. To my immense relief, state law allowed lottery winners to claim their prize through a blind trust. But I needed money to set up a trust. I needed a lawyer. I had nothing. Then I remembered the silver lining of my mother's cruelty. Because she had refused to co-sign any loans or give me a dime, the university had set up a small emergency line of credit for my tuition, which I hadn't fully tapped into. It was risky, but I went to the financial aid office, claiming a medical emergency, and secured a $500 cash advance. I bought a bus ticket to the state capitol. The lottery headquarters was a sterile, unforgiving building, but to me, it looked like the gates of heaven. I had called ahead to a reputable, mid-sized law firm in the city, offering them a simple deal. I had a winning ticket for $5 million. I needed a lawyer to set up an LLC and a trust to claim it, and I would pay their premium rate the second the funds cleared. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Sarah Jenkins, took one look at my emaciated frame, my sunken eyes, and my trembling hands, and ushered me into her office, locking the door behind her. "Who did this to you, Elena?" Sarah asked softly, looking over my ID and the ticket. "My mother," I rasped. "And my luck." Sarah didn't ask further questions. She acted with lethal efficiency. Within 48 hours, the Silver Lining Trust was established. I chose the lump sum payout. After federal and state taxes, the amount deposited into my newly opened, heavily encrypted private bank account was $3.1 million. When Sarah showed me the bank statement on her tablet, she also pushed a warm bowl of chicken broth toward me. Eat slowly, she instructed. If you eat too fast, your body will go into shock. Refeeding syndrome is deadly. I looked at the broth.
No trash cans.
No, Danielle, looking at me with disgust. Just a clear, golden liquid that smelled like life. I picked up the spoon and took a sip. For the first time in 6 months, I let a tear fall. I didn't return to the dorm immediately. I stayed in a modest hotel near the capital for a week. I hired a private physician to oversee my diet, slowly reintroducing complex carbohydrates and proteins into my system. My stomach, which had felt like a clenched fist for months, began to slowly uncoil. I slept for 14 hours a day. The blue veins on my skin began to recede, and a faint, healthy pink started to touch my cheeks. On the 8th day, I bought a new wardrobe. Nothing flashy. Just clean, well-fitting clothes that didn't hang off my bones like rags. I bought a new phone, keeping the old one turned off in my bag. Then I went back to West Ridge University. I walked into the dorm room on a Tuesday afternoon. Danielle was sitting on her bed, painting her nails. She didn't look up immediately. "You've been gone a week," she said, her tone dripping with boredom. "Mr. Palmer has been looking for you. He said the expulsion paperwork is basically signed. Good riddance, honestly. It's been nice not having a garbage-eating rat in the room." I stood in the doorway. I was wearing a clean cashmere sweater and tailored jeans. My hair was washed and brushed. I walked over to my side of the room and pulled out a sleek, newly purchased suitcase. Danielle finally looked up. The brush froze in her hand. Her eyes darted from my face, to my clothes, to the suitcase. The insult she had prepared died on her lips. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice faltering. "Packing," I said calmly. You're dropping out?" "Moving out," I corrected. I began tossing my few textbooks and personal items into the bag. I left the worn-out blankets and the threadbare clothes in the closet. "Did you find some sugar daddy or something?" Danielle sneered, recovering her usual venom, though her eyes betrayed her confusion. "Because there's no way you bought those clothes with scratch cards." I zipped the suitcase. I looked at Danielle, truly looking at her for the first time without the lens of shame and starvation. She was just a girl. A mean, small-minded girl who felt big by stepping on someone who was already suffocating. "Danielle," I said, my voice steady and quiet. "For months, I was starving to death. You knew it. You threw away good food while looking me in the eye, just to watch me humiliate myself to survive. I don't hate you. Hating you would require me to care about you. But I do pity you. You have an ugly soul." Her face flushed crimson. She stood up, her mouth opening to scream an insult, but I just turned around and walked out. I didn't look back. I had rented a beautiful, secure one-bedroom apartment just off campus. The fridge was stocked with fresh vegetables, lean meats, and whole grains. I unpacked my bags, sat on the plush sofa, and opened my laptop. It was time to deal with Mr. Palmer. I walked into Mr. Palmer's office the next morning. He was typing furiously at his computer. When he saw me, his face hardened.
Elena.
"I've already submitted the recommendation to the dean. Your absences this past week were the final straw. You've squandered your potential. I told you I have no tolerance for people who look for shortcuts." I sat down in the chair opposite him without being asked. I placed a thick manila folder on his desk. "What is this?" he sighed aggressively. "My medical records," I said. "From the past week, along with a psychological evaluation." He frowned, reluctantly opening the folder. His eyes scanned the top document, a blood panel and a doctor's summary. I watched the color drain from his face as he read the words severe malnourishment, critical anemia, organ strain, consistent with prolonged starvation. "Mr. Palmer," I said, my voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had returned from the dead. "When I came to this university, my mother cut off all financial support. She blocked me. She sabotaged my attempts to get a job in town. She gave me a stack of lottery tickets and told me to survive on my luck. The day you bought me that meal in the cafeteria, I hadn't eaten anything but a single discarded bite of cake in 3 days." He looked up at me, his mouth slightly open, the anger in his eyes replaced by profound horror. "You told me I was looking for shortcuts," I continued. "You told me I got into this school on luck. You looked at a starving, abused girl, and you saw a gambler. You almost expelled me because I wouldn't hand over a $20 winning ticket, which, by the way, was the only thing standing between me and a hospital bed." "Elena." Mr. Palmer stammered, his hands shaking slightly as he held the medical report. "I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" I asked pointedly. "You had already made up your mind about who I was." Silence hung heavy in the room. The authoritative academic was reduced to a guilty, shattered man. "I am withdrawing your expulsion recommendation," he said finally, his voice thick with shame. "Immediately. I can help you apply for emergency housing. Food stamps." "Elena," I am so deeply sorry. I don't need emergency housing, I said, standing up. I've secured my living situation. I just need you to allow me to take my makeup exams. I intend to keep my spot in the top 10% of my class. Of course, he whispered. Whatever you need. I left his office feeling lighter. The second ghost had been exorcised. The next few months were a blur of intense focus. Free from the agonizing grip of starvation, my brain functioned at a level I hadn't experienced since high school. The swimming tadpoles on the chalkboard became complex, beautiful equations again. I studied relentlessly. I wasn't doing it to prove anything to my mother anymore. I was doing it for me. By the end of the spring semester, I had achieved a 4.0 GPA. I had gained back 25 pounds, reaching a healthy, vibrant weight. My skin glowed, my hair was thick and shiny, and I walked with a posture that commanded respect. I didn't flaunt my wealth. I drove a reliable, used sedan. I dressed well, but conservatively. I hired Sarah Jenkins' firm on retainer to help me invest the remaining 2-point-something million into diversified index funds, municipal bonds, and a few careful real estate investments. My money was quietly making money. Then came June, the end of the academic year. I was sitting in a coffee shop near campus when my old, cracked phone, which I kept charged in my drawer purely out of morbid curiosity, buzzed. It was a text from my mother. She had unblocked me. Mom, semester is over. I suppose you're coming crawling back home. I bought a book of $10 scratch cards for the summer. Be grateful. Be at the bus station by 5 p.m. tomorrow. I stared at the screen. A year ago, this message would have sent me into a spiral of anxiety and despair. Now, I just felt a profound, clinical detachment. I picked up the phone and typed my reply. Elena, I'm not coming back. Ever. Do not contact me again. 10 seconds later, the phone rang. I answered it, putting it on speaker and setting it on the table as I sipped my latte. What did you just say to me? Her shrill, cutting voice echoed from the tiny speaker. I said I'm not coming back. I replied calmly. Oh, really? She laughed, a nasty, grating sound. And how do you plan to live? Who's going to feed you? You think because you survived 1 year on my charity, you're suddenly independent? You're nothing without the luck I gave you. You didn't give me luck, Mother. You gave me trauma. And I survived despite it. I have my own apartment. I have money. I'm legally emancipating myself. If you try to find me, I will file a restraining order. There was a pause on the line. Her tone shifted from mocking to suspicious. Apartment? Money? Where did you get money? Did you steal it? Elena, if you did something illegal, I'm not bailing you out. I didn't steal anything. Goodbye. I hung up and blocked her number. I took the old phone, walked out of the coffee shop, and dropped it into a public trash can. It felt poetic. I underestimated my mother's greed and paranoia. When a narcissist loses control of their victim, they don't just walk away. They dig. She contacted my old high school friends, she harassed the university administration, and eventually, she hired a cheap private investigator. It took them 3 months, but by September of my sophomore year, the PI managed to uncover the breadcrumbs of my life. He found my apartment address. He found out I wasn't working a job, yet paying rent in full. And through some shady backdoor connections at a local bank, he found out about this silver lining trust. The PI put 2 and 2 together. The timing of the trust's creation aligned perfectly with a $5 million lottery payout from a scratch card sold in my university town. I was walking out of my advanced economics class when she ambushed me. She stood in the middle of the campus courtyard, looking exactly as I remembered her, bitter, sharp-featured, wrapped in a cheap trench coat. When she saw me, her eyes widened for a fraction of a second, taking in my healthy figure, my expensive leather bag, the sheer vitality radiating from me. But the surprise was quickly swallowed by a ravenous, manic greed. You little thief, she shrieked, her voice echoing across the courtyard. Students turned to stare. I stopped. I didn't run. I stood my ground, my expression unreadable. She marched up to me, jabbing a finger into my chest. $5 million. $5 million. You won it on the cards I bought you, and you hid it from me. You ungrateful little bitch. That money is mine. Whispers broke out among the gathering crowd. I saw Danielle in the periphery, her jaw practically hitting the pavement. Mr. Palmer, who had been walking toward the administrative building, froze in his tracks. Keep your voice down, I said coldly. No. I want everyone to know what a thief you are, she screamed, spit flying from her lips. I bought that book of cards. I paid for it. That makes the winnings mine. You're going to transfer every single penny to my account right now, or I'm dragging you to court. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I saw the woman who wished I was never born, the woman who starved me, the woman who wanted to watch me break just so she could feel superior. A slow, chilling smile spread across my face. Take me to court, I said. She blinked, momentarily derailed by my calm. What? I said, take me to court. Hire a lawyer.
Swimmy.
I took a step closer to her, lowering my voice so only she could hear the absolute venom in it. Because here is what's going to happen in discovery, Mother. You'll have to admit, under oath, that you abandoned me and refused to provide for my basic needs. But that won't even be the best part. I reached into my bag and pulled out a crisp, laminated photocopy of a receipt. I had kept it exactly for this moment. You see, I said, raising my voice just enough so the crowd could hear, you didn't buy the winning ticket. Her face contorted. Liar. I bought that book of $20 cards. You did, I agreed. And I scratched every single one of them. The very last one was a $20 winner. But I didn't cash it in. I took that $20 ticket and I exchanged it for a new one at the redemption center. I used my own asset to purchase a new contract. The cashier scanned it. The receipt shows I bought the winning ticket, not you. Legally, you have absolutely zero claim to a single dime of my money. Her face went pale. The manic energy drained out of her, replaced by a suffocating realization. No, she stammered. No, that's my luck. You run on my luck. I gave birth to you. You fell down the stairs trying to kill me before I was even born, I said, my voice cutting through the courtyard like a scythe. Gasps erupted from the students around us. My mother stumbled backward, as if physically struck. You blamed me for your hysterectomy, I continued, closing the distance, backing her into the metaphorical corner she had kept me in my whole life. You blamed me for your divorce. You told me my entire life was a fluke. Well, guess what, Mother? You were right about one thing. I got lucky. I got lucky that I exchanged that ticket, but keeping the money, building a life, not starving to death, that was all me. I turned my back on her. If you ever come near me again, I called out over my shoulder, my lawyers will bury you in so much litigation you'll be paying legal fees until the day you die. Go back to your miserable life. I walked away. Behind me, my mother collapsed to her knees, wailing, demanding her luck back. No one helped her. The campus security eventually escorted her off the premises. As I walked past the crowd, my eyes met Danielle's. She looked terrified, realizing the girl whose garbage she monitored could buy her family 10 times over. I didn't even give her a second glance. I looked at Mr. Palmer, who gave me a slow, respectful nod. I nodded back. For years later, the graduation ceremony was held in the grand stadium of West Ridge University. The sun was shining, casting a golden hue over the sea of black robes. I sat in the front row. I was graduating summa cum laude with a dual degree in economics and business administration. When my name was called, Elena Marshall, valedictorian, the applause was deafening. I walked up the steps to the podium, adjusting the microphone. I looked out over the crowd. I saw Mr. Palmer sitting with the faculty, beaming with pride. I saw Danielle, graduating middle of the pack, looking up at me with a mixture of envy and resignation. I did not see my mother. After our confrontation, she had tried to sue me, exactly as I predicted. Sarah Jenkins had eviscerated her lawyer in a single pre-trial hearing. The judge had thrown the case out with prejudice and ordered her to pay my legal fees. She had to sell her house to afford it. I heard she moved to a small, rundown apartment in another state, spending her days scratching lottery tickets, desperately trying to find the luck she believed I had stolen from her. Fellow graduates, I began, my voice steady and resonant over the speakers. When I first came to this university, I was told that success was entirely dependent on luck. I was told that hard work was an illusion, that we are merely subjects to the whims of chance. I smiled, a genuine, warm smile. I won't lie to you, luck exists. Sometimes it hands you a devastating blow, and sometimes it hands you a miracle. But luck is just the weather. It is the storm that tries to sink you, or the wind that fills your sails. You are the captain. You build the ship. You navigate the waters. I looked down at my hands. They were no longer skeletal. They were strong. Do not let anyone tell you that your achievements are an accident. Do not let anyone reduce your survival, your late nights, your tears, and your grit to a roll of the dice. We are here today because we fought to be here. I concluded my speech to a standing ovation. After the ceremony, I walked out of the stadium. My car was waiting. But before I went to the celebratory dinner I had organized for my close friends and mentors, I took a detour. I drove to the Redemption Center outside the campus gates. The same woman was working behind the counter, looking older and more tired. I walked in, bought a bottle of water, and placed a $100 bill on the counter. "Keep the change," I said. She looked at the bill, then up at me, not recognizing the glamorous, healthy woman standing before her as the starving girl she had once mocked. "Are you sure, honey?" "I'm sure," I said. "Have a lucky day." I walked out into the bright afternoon sun, climbed into my car, and drove away, leaving nothing behind but the past. My life didn't run on luck anymore.
It ran on me. If you like the story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.